institution. But some of the basic information will be geared for institution-wise for MSJC. So you definitely want to check out your institution if you're planning on transferring to either another community college or a four-year institution. But let's get started. So for today's topics, we're going to go over the different types of financial aid programs, both the federal and the state aid, um, the two different types of applications, how to maintain your eligibility. So once you complete that application, you receive your financial aid. How do you maintain that for the next semester or the next academic year? If you're receiving financial aid funds, how you're able to spend your money and what you can spend that money on. And then also I'll provide you with some resources. And then lastly, if time permits, we'll have questions and answers. So there's different types of financial aid that a student can receive. There's gift aid, which this particular aid it comes in the form of funds that can be dispersed out to you in either a check form or I know some institutions have like a third party that they partner with. So like our institution, we partner with Bank Mobile. So the disbursements will be going through Bank Mobile, which will be dispersed into their own personal bank account. And then scholarships. So these particular grants and scholarships do not need to be repaid back. Then there's work where if you would like to work on campus, you can earn funding that way by being a student and a worker and being paid your payment for your job on campus. And then there's loans. And then typically these loans, they do have to be paid back. There's different types of loans where repayment will begin immediately or repayment will begin after you are no longer enrolled in at least half time. And the repayment will have to be added with interest. The different sources of financial aid, there's through the federal government, and then the state government, which for California, it's the California Student Aid Commission. And then you can also get some aid by institution. So whether you're enrolled in a community college or a university, they have their own separate awards. And then you can also be given aid by a federal agency or private agencies or companies or your employer. And for federal aid, the most common and the biggest and largest is that federal Pell Grant. And we'll go a little bit more about these different programs on the next couple of slides. So for federal aid programs, it's that federal Pell Grant, the FSEOG or the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Then we have the Federal Work Study or FWS, Teach Grant, and then the direct student loans. So for the federal Pell Grant, again, this is the largest federal aid just by completing that FAFSA application. And it's awarded to students who do not yet have that baccalaureate degree, and they have up to 600 lifetime eligibility usage, 600%, which could equate out to 6 full-time years. So if you're going 12 units or more for the fall term and 12 units or more in the spring term, that year for fall and spring, you would have used 100% for your Pell lifetime eligibility. And so essentially you have 6 years if you're going full time. Then we have, again, that FSEOG or the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. These are awarded to undergraduates who are pursuing their first baccalaureate or professional degree. And usually it's awarded to students with the lowest SAI, which is that Student Aid Index, who are already receiving and awarded that federal Pell Grant. They also have the different eligibility criteria based off of where the student is attending. So it may differ from a community college or a four-year institution or MSJC or another institution. So you definitely want to check with your institution to see the eligibility criteria on what is eligible or who is eligible to receive this particular award. And the award amounts can vary and change based off of the institution. So it could be either from $100 per year up to $4,000 per year. So that depends on the institution as well. Now we have the federal work study, and this is work that we have previously indicated on the different financial aid that a student can receive. So if interested, a student can work on campus to be funded their award. So this is good for undergraduate, graduate, or any professional students. Again, the employment is on campus, at least for MSJC. It could be off campus at a four-year institution or any other institution. And for federal work study, the funds are very limited. So if you are interested in a federal work study, you definitely want to reach out to your institution and let them know that you are interested. Or if you're coming to MSJC, we have through our HR department where you would complete an application for student workforce program, and you would go through the hiring process through our HR. It may differ with other institutions, so you definitely want to inquire with your financial aid office at that institution if you are interested in the federal work study and how to apply. For direct student loans, there's two different types of loans. There's a subsidized that does not accrue interest while a student is in school and attending at least half time. And then there's the unsubsidized, which as soon as you take out that loan, it will accrue interest, and it's not based off of financial need. So the cost of attendance minus that student aid index will generate a financial need for a student. So if a student does not have financial need because their student aid index is exceeding their cost of attendance, they're still able to take out an unsubsidized loan. Interest rates will vary per academic year, and then the annual loan limits will be based off of the student's dependency status and their grade level when they are taking out that loan. There is a 6-month deferment period after graduation, or if a student were to fall below that half-time enrollment. And then if they do not go back into at least half-time or above, then they will have to start paying back on those loans. There's Direct Plus loans, which is available for parents of dependent undergraduate students, as well as graduate students. And not all schools like MSJC offer the plus loans. So you certainly want to check with your institution to see their availability and if they offer the plus loans. Now for our state aid programs, the largest and most well known is that Cal Grant Award. And all of these awards are awarded through the California Student Aid Commission. Now, that California College Promise Grant is only a community college award or grant. So if you're going to a four-year institution, they'll have their own tuition fee waiver. So that California College Promise Grant, or better known as CCPG, is a non-cash grant, most known for a tuition fee waiver. And so these are for eligible California or AB 540 students who are currently enrolled at a community college. So it will waive the student's tuition fees for the student as long as they have a completed FAFSA on file and they have at least a financial need of at least $1,104. Or they're receiving TANF or CalWORKs, or even SSI or SSP, or even general assistance if they're a dependent student. They can also be certified by the California Department of Veterans Affairs, be an eligible recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor, or be an eligible as dependent of a deceased law enforcement or fire suppression, be eligible as a recipient of the Department of Corrections, or be eligible as a dependent spouse, registered domestic partner of a deceased physician, nurse, or first responder. Most students will qualify once they complete that FAFSA application or even CADAA application. And then uh, depending on their SAI, which is that student aid index, and have that financial need, they'll be given their California College Promise Grant. Then there's that Cal Grant. Again, this is awarded by the California Student Aid Commission. And the Cal Grant A is for high school seniors and recent high school graduates with at least a GPA of a 3.0, have the met the income and asset ceilings for the California Student Aid Commission, and who demonstrate that financial need. So again, the cost of attendance minus that student aid index or the SAI will have to have a financial need in order for a student to be eligible for a Cal Grant award. Then there's a Cal Grant B, which is also for high school seniors and recent high school graduates with at least a GPA of a 2.0. These particular awardees come from a disadvantaged or low income families and are meeting the income and asset ceilings and also demonstrate a financial need. And lastly, for the Cal Grant, we have the Cal Grant C, and these particular awardees are pursuing a vocational program of study. So it's a certificate degree, and they'll be awarded that Cal Grant award. Going along with that Cal Grant award, a student may be awarded the Student Success Completion Grant or the SSCG. And so if a student is awarded a Cal Grant award and they're going full time, so at least 12 units or more, they could be eligible for the SSCG. So if they're going at least 12 units to 14.99 units per semester, they could be awarded up to $1,298. And then for students who are enrolled in at least 15 units and more, and they're also receiving that Cal Grant award, they can receive an amount up to $4,000. So again, all they need to do is complete that FAFSA or CADAA application, have already been awarded that Cal Grant award, and then be enrolled in full time. Now, at universities, they have the middle class scholarship, and these are for undergraduates whose family income and assets are above the $234,000. So they may not be eligible for that Cal Grant award because they're not within or meeting the income and asset ceilings. So then the California State Aid Commission will see if they're available and able for the middle class scholarship. To be eligible for this particular scholarship, a student will also want to complete that FAFSA or CADAA be the priority deadline of March 3rd, attend a UC or CSU, be U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or have an AB 540 status, be California resident, and maintain the 2.0 cumulative GPA. The annual award amounts for this particular scholarship is determined by the California Student Aid Commission. So you certainly want to go to the California Student Aid Commission's website, and the link is provided below. And then you just want to click the middle class scholarship. The California Chafee Grant, again, is awarded through the California Student Aid Commission. It's provided $5,000 annually to current and former foster youth for college or vocational training at any accredited college in the U.S. To be eligible, students will want to complete the FAFSA or the CADAA, as well as complete the additional application for the Chafee Grant. And they want to at least be eligible to be at least one day between the ages of 16 and 18 and not have reached their 26th birthday as of July 1st, 2025. Next, we have the Dreamer Service Incentive Grant, or DSIG. So these are for our CADAA students who perform community and volunteer service. They'll want to complete the 2025 CADAA by that priority deadline. Also be a recipient of a Cal Grant B. Must be meeting SAP or the satisfactory academic progress, which means that a student must have a cumulative 2.0 GPA or a cumulative, I'm not sorry, not or, and a cumulative 67% completion rate, meaning the amount of units that a student is attempting, they want to try to complete the same amount of units. So if they're withdrawing from courses, it's going to bring down that completion rate. They also need to perform at least 150 hours per semester or 100 hours per quarter for either a community or volunteer service for this particular grant. And then they can be awarded up to $4,500 per academic year. Next, we have institutional grants. So it will vary depending on where you are planning on attending. So the University of California's, they have the Blue and Gold Scholarship. California State University, they have their state university grants that you want to inquire with. And then California Community College, again, they have that California College Promise Grant or CCPG, which is that tuition fee waiver. And then we have the California Promise Program. So the California Promise Program is for students who are not eligible for the California College Promise Grant or CCPG or any other tuition fee waiver. If they're a first-time student, so not just first time at a particular community college, but just first time in general. So they're just graduated from high school, first time student, they're enrolled full time in courses and have and complete a 2.0 each semester. They will be eligible for the California College Promise Grant as long as they complete that FAFSA application. And it's good for 2 years. So every semester within those 2 years, they'll have to complete at least 12 units and have that 2.0 GPA. And it goes here it goes a little bit more about that Promise program. So here at our institution at MSJC, again, it's free tuition for first-time, full-time students. So they're completing their application for admissions with MSJC. They're a California resident. They're a first-time student. So no transfer units. They haven't went to any other institution previously. They just graduated high school. They have a FAFSA or CADAA on file. They're enrolled in at least 12 units for both the fall and the spring and have maintained a minimum of 2.0 GPA. At MSJC, along with the Promise program, so not only will we cover the tuition fees if a student has been awarded the Promise program, but we also award a book grant. So with our awardees who are awarded that Promise program, they've also awarded the Promise book grant to help pay for their books and any expenses. Now, let's say a student is or is not eligible for financial assistance, or if they want to be eligible for even more financial assistance, they can go ahead and apply for scholarships. There is no certain number of scholarships that you can apply for, or that you can only apply up to. You can certainly apply for as many scholarships as you would like. I recommend and advise students to complete applications for scholarships through that first website of the fastweb.com. This is a particular website that if you complete an application, it will match and find scholarships directly for your need instead of having to go search for scholarships individually. If you're searching for scholarships and applying, you certainly want to know that you do not want to pay for a scholarship. You shouldn't have to pay. You shouldn't have to answer too much personal information. So I would just stick with just some basic information when you're applying for scholarships. But just know that scholarships normally, the application process, it may be lengthy, but it definitely pays off. A lot of students will go to a scholarship. They'll look at what is required by submitting that application and may think that it's too much for them to do. But really, the donors only need one person, one student to complete their scholarship. and submit that application. And as long as you're meeting the criteria guidelines, they'll go ahead and award you. So a lot of students will stop because it's too much or too time consuming. So certainly if you are able to complete them, certainly do so because you may be able to get those scholarships. If you're attending MSJC, we do have some internal scholarships listed on our website as well, besides going for the external through that fastweb.com. Some additional resources that we have here at MSJC, we have our Eagles Landing, and Eagles Landing is a basic needs initiative that helps students with providing some emergency food. If your students are needing books and supplies, or even professional clothing for job interviews, basic hygienic items, and then again, we have a food pantry that we help students obtain. We have the Eagles Landing website below, and to be interested in the Eagles Landing on their website, there is a little application that students would want to complete. And they also have emergency funding. So if a student is needing emergency funding, they would also complete that application and they can be eligible as long as they're meeting the guidelines. Now let's go into the important information, the different types of applications. So a student only wants to complete one application. So they either will complete the FAFSA application, which is the free application for federal student aid, or they'll complete the CADAA application, which is the California Dream Act application. So depending on whether you're a U.S. citizen or undocumented will depend on the particular application that you're going to submit. The 2025-2026 FAFSA and CADAA applications are now available or both available. You definitely want to submit the application prior to the priority deadline, which again is March 3rd. If you submit it afterwards, you're going to a community college, that is okay. Community colleges has another deadline, which is at September 1st of 2025. But if you're going to a university or UC or CSU, I would suggest and advise to complete your application no later than the March 3rd. That way you're eligible for the most award money and most grants. So for the FAFSA form process, a student will need to already create their FSA ID. It'll be required for both the student and the parents. If they have a valid Social Security number, they'll answer some identifying questions. And then within the applications, parents who do not have a Social Security number, they'll utilize the little check mark, and which is shown in the little box to the right with a circle, that they do not have a Social Security number, and they'll be able to go through the application with a manual verification process. FAFSA applicants and contributors must consent throughout the application to allow the Department of Education to link the information with the IRS and provide that tax information directly into the FAFSA form or application, and this is called the FAFSA Direct Data Exchange. If a parent or student does not consent their information to be released on the FAFSA, then unfortunately that student will not be eligible for financial aid. So who is the contributor? So a contributor is a person who is providing information on the FAFSA. So this could be the student themselves. This could be the student's spouse if they're married, their parent or parents, and then the parent's spouse. If a student does not meet the Department of Education's conditions to be considered independent, then they will need to have the parent or parents' information provided onto the application and provide the consent. The different FAFSA and CADAA sections are personal circumstances, demographics, financials, colleges, signatures, and then a confirmation page. And once a student submits and completes their application, so for the FAFSA, it'll look like the little screenshot on the left. letting you know that your FAFSA form has been completed and now it's going to go to the Department of Education for processing. Once it's processed with the Department of Education, it will allow up to 3 to 5 business days for the institution to receive your application. For the CADAA, the confirmation page shows that it's submitted with a little box on the right-hand side. And then you'll also receive a follow-up email once it's completed processing. Students who are completing the FAFSA application will also receive a summary page letting them know what has been submitted. Their student aid index will also be on there. And then the date that they submitted their application and the date that it was processed by the Department of Education. They'll also be able to see estimated financial aid that they could be eligible for, such as that federal Pell Grant, any direct loans, as well as a federal work study that they may be eligible for as long as they inquire with the institution on their requirements and how to apply. And then it also will provide a student of the next step. So whether they need to correct any errors on their FAFSA, reach out to the schools to make sure that they have everything that they need, or if they're selected for verification, what types of documents they will need to provide to the institution, as well as when they should be able to see an offer letter from the institution. So notification of processing in student aid index. So for the FAFSA, once the form or the application has been completed, the Department of Education will calculate the student aid index or SAI, which will determine and let the schools know how much the student is eligible to receive. So once the Department of Education calculates that student aid index, when it goes to the institution, again, they'll calculate the financial need. So they'll run the numbers for and do the calculation of the cost of attendance minus the student aid index and see what type of financial need is generated. Once they'll have that, then they'll go ahead and send the offer letter out to the student to show what has been awarded. Once the California's DREAM Act has been completed, the California Student Aid Commission will calculate the student's student aid index or SAI, which again will let and determine the school know how much the student will be able to receive. Once the school determines the financial need, again, they will reach out either by email or through the student portal for that institution on whether the student is selected for verification. They have to provide documentation in order to complete their record, or if they've been awarded, the type of awards that have been awarded for the academic year. Now, let's say you've been awarded, you've received your financial aid disbursement, and you are going into your next semester. You want to know how to maintain your eligibility because that's very important. You don't want to lose it. So every academic year, so just think, put on your calendar, every October 1st, that new FAFSA or CADAA will come out, and every year you're going to want to go ahead and complete a new application. The priority deadline, if it lands on a weekend, then it will change just one day, but just keep in mind that March 2nd is the priority deadline. For the 2025-2026, that priority deadline is going to be for March 3rd, since the 2nd falls on a weekend. So you always want to complete your application prior to then to be eligible for the most award money. You want to make sure that when you are registered at your institution, you're enrolled in an eligible program of study. So if you're listed as undecided or undeclared, you would be ineligible for financial assistance until you were to correct that to an eligible program of study. And then, as previously mentioned, you want to make sure that you're maintaining your satisfactory academic progress or SAP. And again, this is maintaining a cumulative 2.0 GPA and then a cumulative 67% completion rate. If you are having or needing to withdraw from a course, I advise to check with your financial aid department as well as admissions to see when the last day to withdraw, because you want to withdraw prior to a W phase. And so each institution will be different. And then if the course is a full-term course or if it's a short-term course, that will also vary on when you would need to drop your course prior to that W phase. And the only reason why I say to drop it prior to a W phase, or W as in withdrawal, because you do not want that withdrawal on your transcript. If you do get a withdrawal, it is going to bring down that completion rate, okay? Again, that completion rate is the amount of units you're attempting. So if you're going in and you're enrolling for that term for let's say 12 units full time, and then throughout the term, let's say the workload became too much or you were unable to, successfully stay in your courses, and let's say you drop down to 6 units, half time. Well, now just for that term, your completion rate for the term is 50%, which is below the requirement of the 67%. So if you need to withdraw, definitely check the important dates with your institution and know when you would need to withdraw prior to receiving a withdrawal or a W. You've been sent your money, and how are you able to use the money or utilize your money? So essentially, your funding can be used really under your discretion. Here are some resources or what you could use your money on. Certainly, you can use it on tuition and any school-related fees, housing and food, books and supplies, transportation, and then miscellaneous. If you are not needing the funding and you do plan on transferring to a four-year institution, so let's say you're going to a community college and you plan on transferring to a four-year institution, what I always recommend is possibly putting it into a savings account and utilizing those funds for when you do transfer over to the four-year institution, because the tuition will be extremely higher, and then your courses may be higher as well. So some resources that we have if you need assistance completing that FAFSA application, or if you have questions regarding a possible error or needing to correct something, or if you're just having login issues or getting into the system, the FAFSA assistance information is right there. We can click the link, or you'll be able to email them as well, or you can contact them at that 1-800-433-3243. For the California Dream Act application for assistance, again, it's through the California Student Aid Commission. So you go to the csac.ca.gov for any assistance. You can also email the student support at csac.ca.gov, or you can call them at that 1-888-224-7268. If you plan on coming to MSJC and you have some questions, you can certainly give us a call. We have updated our website, so feel free to check out our website for any questions regarding receiving financial aid or even scholarships or any additional financial assistance that you may need. You can also email us at thefinaid@msjc.edu, and call us at our direct line at 951-465-7891, Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 5, or even Fridays from 8 to 12. I also provided our student support hub. So if you are planning on coming to MSJC and maybe you have questions, but possibly not with our institution, or sorry, not with our department, but possibly with another department such as enrollment services or even foundations, or cashiers, or even instruction, or counseling, I provided our support hub, where if you click that link, it will take you directly to the different departments where you can select and get their information. You may also contact the support hub at 951-465-7887. And that concludes our presentation, and I will open it up if you